Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Whimsy North Podcast. I'm Margaret with Whimsy North and I am coming to you here from Madison, Wisconsin. Today I'm actually in my attic space, so the lighting is a little bit different. There's not a lot of natural light. But part of that is because I haven't been able to do a podcast in a few months due to how busy my schedule has been, and this summer with having my 3 kids home, they are constantly all around my house and make it really difficult for me to get alone time where I can record a video. So while my oldest son is at the pool and my middle daughter's at a movie and my youngest is at camp, I am sneaking up here to give you a midsummer update as to what's happening at Whimsy North. I will be getting back to regularly scheduled podcasts in the fall once all 3 of my kids are in school, so be on the lookout for that. But I can't guarantee I'll have another one between now and then, just due to summer schedules. So here's kind of an update as to what I'm working on. If you follow me on Instagram, one thing that you might notice is I'm also expecting number 4. So it's about to get a little crazier around here with adding a 4th child at the end of November. So hopefully I can get a bunch of podcasts and patterns put together for you before that happens. So, okay, wanted to talk about my new designs that have come out since my last podcast episode, which honestly I think was in April. So the first one that I had talked about on episode 2 that was finally released at the end of April was my Kindra cowl. And this has become my favorite knitwear item that I have in my stash. I wear it all the time. Well, not in the summer now, since in Madison it is warm. But my son plays hockey, and so pretty much every time we go to the rink, I bring this cowl with, and it has been my new favorite thing. So it has this solid color of yarn from Ken Yarn, and then these 2 yarns are from Sorella. There's a little bit more solid and then kind of a speckle. It is knit in the round, so it's completely, you can kind of flip it all around. And then there's a provisional cast on, which is then seamed with a Kitchener stitch at the end. So it's completely seamless. And I do add a little twist before the seaming, which is your preference whether you want to have the twist or not. So it fits wonderfully as I'm throwing it on. And I love that it's like super cozy next to your neck, but not like too tight. So you get good warmth, but also like feeling spacious. You can wear it in so many different ways. You can wear it half and half or just one color. You can have the twist kind of in the front, or show no twist, have the twist kind of in the back, which helps you to not feel like it's too bulky in the back too. So lots of different ways to wear this. I will put a link down below to this pattern. You can get it on Etsy and Ravelry. That's the Kindra cowl that is out. It's been actually one of my most popular designs this year yet, so go check it out. Okay. Then next, I'm actually wearing the next design that came out. This is my Sienna lace vest, and I actually designed this one for Knit Picks as part of their knitting lace collection, their Haven collection they call it, that came out in June, so about a month ago. And I'm gonna stand up, but I'm wearing shorts today because it's like 82 degrees. But I designed it kind of to be worn in the summer, obviously, knowing that it was going to come out in June. I wanted something that was really lightweight. Here is the yarn, actually. I had some extra. I'll link this yarn below because I loved working with it. It's called Shadow, and it is a lace weight yarn. It is 100% merino wool. So it has like a really great feel to it while also being lightweight. It blocks beautifully, knits up wonderful. So yeah, I'll link shadow below. I'm gonna insert some photos of this pattern because it's kind of hard for me to show you since I don't have very much space. It it has this really great chevron lace detail that goes all the way around. It's kind of like a bohemian feel. That's why I named it Sienna. I don't know, Sienna sounded like a bohemian name to me. And if you watched my first episode, you know that I'm kind of leaning towards naming a lot of my patterns after girl names. So Kindra is a Norwegian girl name, and this was very Nordic, Norwegian inspired. And then Sienna felt a little bit like a bohemian name, so I named this laced vest Sienna. So you can get this pattern on knitpicks.com. It either comes as a standalone pattern or you can get it within the ebook of the whole Haven Lace collection. They also have printed books, but they have not sent the Haven book yet because printing is a little bit behind, supply chain issues. You see that everywhere. So you can pre-order the print book or you can get the pattern with the ebook or standalone on KnitPicks. So I'll put a link to that pattern in the show notes along with the yarn that I use, the shadow, and you can take a look at it. And I'm going to insert some photos of the actual full design since it kind of goes down to my ankles and is very hard to show without just throwing a baby bump in your face. Okay, so the next design that is out is brand new. It just came out on my website. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen it. And if you are on my newsletter, you also may have seen an update on that as well. And it is finally my diamond dishcloth pattern. So if you remember from a previous episode, this was my initial dishcloth. So you can see it has garter ridges and this mosaic knitting. So here's the back. So it is all knit with mosaic knitting, therefore you only use one color per row. So you're not having to catch floats, switch colors halfway through. You just knit one color back and forth per row. When I knit my first sample, so this also uses KnitPicks yarn. I'm loving KnitPicks yarn these days. This uses their Dishy yarn, which is 100% cotton, and it is wonderful for doing like a dishcloth or anything that you're going to be using around the home because it just holds up really well and it's machine washable. So when I did my first design, I didn't love how the sides were pulling in on this mosaic section here, and the edge was just I didn't have anything on the edging, so it kind of didn't give it a good finished look. So I did a second one in two other colors, which is a little bit lighter, but I added an I-cord edge. So just a 2-stitch I-cord edge, and I love the way it turned out. So this has been, I've been saving it so that I don't use it so I can show it and take photos of it. So I just finally uploaded it to the blog, so you can find this pattern for free on whimsynorth.com. I will link to the pattern below, and in there it talks about what yarn to use. It gives a full chart for the pattern and also written instructions. So it's actually pretty beginner friendly as long as you know how to knit, purl, and slip stitches. So that's all you need to know for the diamond dishcloth. And it's a really fun, quick project to, if you're doing a longer project and you just want something fast and quick to knit, carry with you. It's small, only 2 balls of yarn. So that is the diamond dishcloth, and you can find it on whimsynorth.com. Like I said, link below. Okay, what's next? All right, so next is, oh yeah, some of the designs that are, I'm done knitting, writing the patterns, but I have not published them yet. And the first one is, ta-da, my Mila sweater. Okay, I'm going to put this one on. Okay, my Mila sweater. I honestly think this is one of my most favorite designs that I have ever designed. And part of that has to do with, I think it just really speaks to my own personality. You can actually see the test swatch over here. This is just some of the swatches that I have. Actually, this is the Sienna lace vest swatch. So anyways, I think that this pattern, which by the way is currently in test knitting and will be coming out the first or second Friday of September. So be on the lookout for this pattern. It comes in 9 sizes, and I use knit picks again for this design. Loving knit picks today. I used their palette yarn because I wanted something with a lot of bright, vibrant colors, and I wanted it to be natural, 100% wool. So I really wanted that rustic Nordic feel, but with pops of color. So I took kind of like a fun yoke, get a little closer so you can see. So it's like fun colorwork yoke with just a little bit of like traditional colorwork design. Then I added in this, I don't know what you would call this, just a design, just another little Nordic type design. And I really think that because it's like my colors, like the gold and white and the pink and turquoise, I just love it. I can't wait to wear it. I might not be wearing it too much in the fall because I might not fit into it, but after that, I think this will be a total staple. So it actually has kind of like a bubble sleeve in a way, because I did the color work, continued the body color work all the way down. It just has like a quick decrease right before the cuff. So you have this like really fun, somewhat bubble sleeve, but not too long, because I love to have I don't like too long of sleeves. I like to be able, I wash my hands a lot, do a lot of things with kids. I like to have like a little bit of a shorter sleeve, but you can definitely knit it as long as you want, obviously. And it has a little bit of a cropped body, but again, all you need to do is add more chart to the body and you can make it a little bit longer. So that's my Mila sweater that I cannot wait for it to come out. Yeah. And then I have another pattern in test knitting. This kind of seems to be something that I end up doing. I go for a while because my Kindra cowl came out at the end of April. And then there's like this huge gap while I'm kind of working on stuff. And then I always end up doing multiple test knits at the same time, which I know doesn't make sense because then it's hard to keep track of all the test knitters and, make sure you're making updates and answering questions accordingly. But for some reason, it's like when it's ready to test knit, I just want it out of here. I want it out and I want to give it to you guys. So I have this in test knitting, and then I also have, you saw this on my last episode, my Seaside Holiday tee. So if you follow me on Instagram, I posted the test knit of this. I am really, I wanted this, well, first I graded and got this tech edited because it was ready. Then I finally graded and got this tech edited. But because it's a t-shirt pattern and it's got fingering weight yarn with this mohair, I really wanted it to come out in the summer. So it is a quicker knit, being that it's doesn't have sleeves and a little bit of an easier design than this full-on colorwork monstrosity. But so I put this test knit call out second, but I'm having this pattern come out at the end of August because I think, you guys want to knit it and be able to wear it. It is a good layering piece. You could put a jacket over this. I will wear it with like a jean jacket, which is really cute. So you can wear it into fall. And depending where you live, if you're in Texas or any southern area, you may wear this year round. So anyways, it'll come out end of August. currently in test knitting, and I'm very excited about that. That's my Seaside Holiday tee that I showed last week. So those are the patterns that are currently done and or being finalized that I've been working on. And then I have one knitting pattern that I'm kind of currently knitting. So after finishing this sweater, which I think was the last thing I actually, as I'm like looking around, I think this was the last thing I actually like got off my needles, was this Mila sweater. After finishing this, which I loved, I needed a little bit of a brain break because while the chart is not difficult, having, you know, multiple kids around, multiple distractions, traveling some this summer, I needed a design that was a little bit more relaxing and intuitive, that I could kind of pick up when I'm semi-distracted by kids or what have you. So I've been wanting to do something with this Explorer Knits yarn that I got from Allie with Explorer Knits. I feel like I bought it like 2 years ago, possibly, when I was on my yarn buying spree. So I bought this yarn, like I said, about 2 years ago, and I've been wanting to kind of figure out what to do with it. And so I finally had it, I don't know, speak to me, I guess you would say. I don't know, does that ever happen to you where you just like put the yarn together and finally it clicks? Anyways, so I'm going to show you, these are like my skeins that I have. So they're not super cute. But if you look at my Instagram, you'll see I posted like the actual hanks together. So I have these 4 colors. I wanted to do a wrap, like a shawl or a wrap. So I have these 4 colors. They just like felt very sunset, rustic-y to me. They're part of her Italian collection, her Italy collection, excuse me. So in wanting to do a wrap, and now I'm like making a mess. I came up with this design that kind of makes me think of fields in Italy, and I wanted to do mosaic knitting again, and I wanted the colors to kind of fade into each other a little bit. So here is what it currently looks like. So as you can see, it's kind of got a little bit of like a stripe fade, and then each color fades into the next, but it also has this garter ridge stitch. Gosh, unblocked knitting just isn't as cute, isn't it? Garter ridge stitch, and then these cables. They're actually really easy cables. Cables that go, slip stitches and cables that kind of run through so that you have like your main color running through the cables. Anyways, when it's done, it'll look even cuter. And I envision it being this like long, straight wrap that kind of goes across like this and then, you know, continues on, that I can wear year round kind of. It's knit with fingering weight yarn, so it's lightweight, and has really good drape to it, but I want it to be kind of giant. So yeah, that's what I'm currently working on. It doesn't have a real name yet. I'm just calling it the Tuscany wrap because the colors and then the fields kind of remind me of Tuscany and hot on Italy these days. So Tuscany wrap doesn't have a name. If you have a name in mind, let me know in the comments. Okay, so I also wanted to, while I was up here, I realized there's a couple projects that I knit a long time ago, a couple years ago, and I've just never finished them. I don't know if you have that problem like me, but one of them is this cute little pouch that I was going to put on the blog as a free pattern. So it is a little mosaic pouch, and it's knit using Lion Brand, oh, I have it right here, Lion Brand Rewind tape yarn, which I don't even know if they still have anymore, but I'll find some alternatives if they don't, and put it in the pattern. But anyways, this is going to be a free blog pattern. It's knit in 2 sections and then seamed all the way around. And then you just like take some fabric and sew it on the inside. So you kind of have to be a little handy for it, but it's not that hard. And I have step-by-step pictures of the process that I've already taken that I've never posted. And then you just sew a zipper on the inside. So it's super cute. I think of it like you could put some makeup in there, or my thought for it was like an essential oil pouch that you can put in your purse. I don't know if there's any other oilers out there like me that love using essential oils. But anyways, when I created this pouch, I thought, oh, it'd be perfect to put your oils in and stick them in your bag. So let me know in the comments if you want me to write up this pattern and post it on the blog for free. What your thoughts are on that one. And then the other pattern that is kind of been haunting me a little bit, I knit this one also like 2 years ago, and the toe was giving me some challenges, so I stopped on it, but I think I've figured out now what I want to do with the toe, so I just need to fix it. Okay, so here it is. It is a slipper. So it's a colorwork, full-stranded colorwork, Nordic colorwork, I guess you would say, slipper, knit with worsted weight yarn. Knit picks again. This is their, what is it? Oh, actually, well, okay, it's Kelborn Woolens wool that Knit Picks used to sell, because that's where I got it from, but I don't think they have it anymore. And that's what this is too. I love this yarn, I really do. It's a really great wool yarn. So I'll link it below through Kelborn Woolen's site. Anyways, this is the front. So you can see how the chart of the toe, I don't know, I don't love it. I don't love what I did with the toe part, but also this is like the small medium size. Put it on for you. And I want to do it in 2 sizes. So then I was like having problems figuring out what to do with the chart for the larger size. And now that I've knit more color work, because this was 2 years ago, as you can see, I was knitting the second one and I got to that section of the toe. It's an afterthought heel, so you just have the little line here, and then this is the foot part, so it kind of changes into just this color work pattern. Then you insert the heel after you're done with the toe. But anyways, I got to the toe and I was like, I'm not sure I love where the toe is going. But I do love the slipper, if you can see it on my foot. I love the slipper, and it fits great. It needs to be blocked a little bit. But, here's me doing my yoga. So, I hope my plan, written in my plan, it really is written down, is to finish this and get it out by October. So what do you guys think? Do you guys want these worsted weight colorwork slippers to come out for October? And are 2 sizes good? So let me know in the comments what you think. I don't have a name for them. I was calling them the Frozen slippers because they kind of reminded me of Frozen a little bit, but that name probably won't stick. So I'll probably have to figure something else out. Okay, so that ends the portion of the update for the patterns that I've been working on and what's coming soon and what you can expect from Whimsy North in the next couple of months for now, because there's always something else. And so now I'm going to answer some of your viewers, some of my viewers' questions. So some of your questions that you submitted through my Google form, which I will link below if you have any questions that I can answer. I like to kind of show the behind the scenes of designing and knitting and what it takes to be a knitwear designer. So if you have any questions on that, please go to my Google form and fill it out, and I will answer it on an upcoming podcast. So I'm going to get those questions. So I have the questions printed off here, and there are 4 of them for this week. I had hoped to answer these earlier and then also do some color work tips, but I'm going to have to table that until fall when I don't have my kids around, because it was just a little hard for me to be able to do that. So, questions. Jackie from California, who is actually now living in South Korea, which is so cool. She asks, your Mila sweater is beautiful. Can you please share any resources that you have for learning colorwork Nordic design? Thank you. Love your podcast so far. Thanks, Jackie. Okay, so I had planned to do this ahead of time, but now I completely forgot. What I wanted to do, this is like my secret book stash. I wanted to show some of my favorite colorwork books, and I keep them all in here. I bet they have them in another spot because I was working on some new colorwork designs. So one that I do have is by Mary Jane Mucklestone. I don't know if you've ever seen her work before. She does some amazing traditional colorwork designs. So this is 150 Scandinavian motifs, and I love just flipping through here for some inspiration on different things like this, kind of like taking this type of a simple Nordic design and then, putting in pops of color. So that kind of gives me inspiration. This is more of like a motif book, not so much like a technique book for color work. Let's see what else. You know what? This is a really fun one. The Alternate Stitch Dictionary by Andrea Rangel. She's super cool, and I love her book. Again, it's more of like a motif book, and but what it helps you to see is that there's so many different ways that you can do colorwork knitting, and it kind of shows how charts are laid out. And in the beginning, she talks about, like, for example, color dominance and what to do, how to hold your yarn. So I mean, I'm more of a video learning person, but she does have some great instruction on how to hold your yarn. So I love this book. This is one of the first color work books that I got, and I'll link this one below as well. Let's see. Oh, this is a really good staple Bible for anyone that wants to knit mosaic color work. So that's like my dishcloth and this little pouch. And my wrap is mosaic too. So Barbara Walker, Mosaic Knitting, I'll link this one, was the first mosaic knitting book that I got. And in the beginning, she explains all about mosaic knitting, how to read charts, how to design your own charts, what it's all about, and kind of how to do it. And then she has charted patterns in her book, so you can see what the finished design looks like, and also follow along on the chart. So that's really nice to help with learning how to knit mosaic knitting, and some examples of different charts that you can knit that you can test out. So that's another really great one. And a couple of my other favorite books, I believe, are downstairs, because I like to use them as inspiration, just to kind of see what is possible with color work, and then build off of that and kind of make my own designs. So that is one tip, Jackie, for resources. And then the other one that really helped progress my colorwork knitting is Knit Stars. So I can't remember if I've mentioned Knit Stars in the past, but it is this online masterclass that is put on in the fall every year with 6 to 7 maybe amazing people in the fiber industry, and they go to their home. The Knit Stars goes to their home, and they teach a full-on masterclass on one area of knitting. So I think it was Knit Stars season 3, maybe season 3 or season 4, where they did a lot of Nordic colorwork knitting. They had Arne and Carlos on there. Who else? I know that's been, so those those masterclasses actually were really helpful for me. So I would highly recommend going and checking out Knit Stars. I'll link it below if you haven't already. It is an investment, but I can honestly say that not only is the cinematography amazing, the teaching is wonderful. They show the project from the top down, but also like from different angles, and they really walk you through how to do each project depending on what the lesson is. So I mean, I highly recommend Knit Stars if you're wanting to kind of grow in your knitting abilities, especially when it comes to color work, because that really helped me. So I hope that answers your question and helps a little bit, Jackie. All right, so the next question is from Julie from Tomahawk, Wisconsin. And she says, I'm wondering how you manage your yarns when doing color work knitting. I'm new to it and have a tangled mess I don't enjoy stopping to fix. A YouTube tutorial would be valuable to us newbies. Loved your podcast. Thanks, Julie. Okay, so I've totally been in your shoes before. Especially when I used to knit mostly English, I would constantly be just like picking up the next color and wrapping it without paying any attention to where the color was coming from, and that just turned into a windy ball of mess. So I will create a video on how I hold my yarns. I might have something on my Instagram, possibly, maybe in my reels, but I will create one and I will post it for you, because ever since learning how to knit continental, I now hold my dominant color yarn in my left hand continental and my contrasting color yarn in my right hand. And then I keep the balls like separate in the bag, or sometimes I actually put them on different sides of my body just to kind of remind me like, whoop, keep these separate, so that I can, you know, like knit with the main color from one side and the contrasting color from the other side, which keeps them from getting tangled. Now, the only time that you have to worry about a tangle is if you're then catching a float, and that I have a technique, and I might have a YouTube video on that. If not, I will put that in there, because catching a float is a potential for where you're going to get a tangle if you don't untangle it within the float. And there is a trick to that. So I'll make sure to put that in the video for you. And then also, I have one pattern out, two patterns. My glimmer crop and my glimmer hat. They were my very first color work designs, and I designed them just based on like what I thought looked pretty, and I didn't think anything of the knitting process. So there are some rounds, they're knitting around, some rounds in those designs that are knit with 3 colors. And I found that when knitting with 3 colors, it is just that much more challenging to keep your yarns from tangling. So, I mean, you have to be so much more mindful, and then when you're catching floats, you have to pay attention to like 3 different colors. It's almost like juggling 3 balls versus 2 balls. So from then on, I have not designed a pattern with more than 2 colors per row. And actually, traditional, like, I wouldn't say like Nordic knitting, but traditional Fair Isle knitting only has 2 colors per row. Now, it may have multiple colors throughout the entire item, but each row or round only uses 2 colors. So if you look at a lot of traditional patterns, they may look like multicolored or very intricate, but each round only has 2 colors. So I try and be really mindful when I'm creating my charts. So like this one is easy to see that only has 2 colors. But other ones, I try and be really mindful of only having 2 colors, because it definitely makes a huge difference when you're knitting color work to have more than only 2 colors. So I hope that helps, and stay tuned for that video. I will post a video on how I keep my yarns from tangling. Okay, so the next question is from Bethany from Massachusetts. She says, I have a top-down sweater that just doesn't fit well. I spent a good chunk of change on the yarn and would like to repurpose it. How can I unravel a top-down sweater? Do I unravel the bind off and pull up, or start at the neck and pull down? Love the podcast. Oh, and please publish that lovely cowl. Happy knitting. as you can see, this question is a little behind because she was talking about my Kindra cowl, which is now published. So, okay, Bethany. Sadly, I've had to do this many a times while designing. So I have lots of experience unraveling a top-down sweater, especially considering I mostly only knit top-down items. I just like to be able to try them on as I go. So, and that's how I learned how to knit my first sweater, so I feel more comfortable top-down. So, in the past, when I have had to frog an entire sweater, which actually this one, I got to about here and realized that in my grading, I forgot to add a whole sleeve. So, it was like this size of a yoke, and I couldn't fit my other arm in it. So I had to rip this whole thing out and start over again. But anyways, I have also ripped out an entire sweater, and what I would recommend for a top-down sweater is to start at the bind-off. So that's going to be the trickiest part because it is like more tight and linked together. So you'll just have to kind of, you know, maybe cut the end and be careful on unraveling it, and then just unravel from there. And you know, honestly, I think that's the best thing to do. I really recommend, if you have a sweater that, or an item, a knit item that you don't love, that just doesn't fit well, or doesn't fit well, you don't love it, you don't want to wear it. I mean, yarn is expensive. There's a lot of money sitting here. You want to be able to love it and wear it. And I know that it's also hard to get there because knitting can take a lot of time. So it feels like a waste, right? Like you knit this entire item. I mean, my middle daughter always says, "How long have you been knitting that sweater, Mom?" Okay, I will be honest, I started knitting this sweater in October and I finished it in July. But I knit all these other things in between. So I wasn't just working on this sweater. And there were a few times where it needed like a brain break because I was like, don't know how to figure this one out. In the design process that I kind of like needed to set it aside. So yes, it took me since October to knit this sweater. But if I didn't love wearing it and it didn't fit the way that I wanted it to fit, which I love it, this is a waste. I mean, it would be like a big pile of yarn that you just threw off in a corner because you're never going to use it. So I do recommend taking the time to frog your sweater and reusing that yarn, because then you can make something that you truly do love and you can wear it out. And so yes, I hope that answers your question, Bethany, and good luck on unraveling your sweater. Okay, so the last question for this week is from, I'm probably going to slaughter this name, and I actually had to Google how to say it because I don't speak, okay, Chenga, if I'm saying that right, from Vienna, Austria, which is why that's a challenge for me because that is not a name I normally say, but it's a really cool name. She asks, do you have any tips on calculating different sizes in garments? I have been interested in creating patterns, but the math always intimidates me. Thank you. Well, Chenga, if I'm saying that right, and if I'm not, I'm so sorry. You sound just like me. So math, as you may have heard if you've watched any of my previous podcasts, is definitely the most challenging part of designing for me. It takes me a lot longer. Even like this sweater, I used a grading template, and it still was very challenging for my brain, because my brain thinks in like color and texture and that kind of thing. So in episode 2, so if you go back to episode 2, I talked about a lot of the resources that you can use to start designing and grading your own patterns. So Tien, she has Designs by Tien. She has a grading workshop that you can take that I've heard is wonderful if you're really wanting to learn the step-by-step process of taking your idea and putting the math to it. I also would recommend Sister Mountain's her sweater design school. That is what I took a couple years ago, and it really helped me to understand how to get from point A to point B in designing a sweater. It is a very all-encompassing course. It doesn't just have grading. It is the entire start to finish. So I will link both of those below. Those are 2 courses that I would recommend. One other thing I talked about in the last episode, and I'll touch on it briefly, is just studying other people's patterns. Like, look at their schematic, look at how many, look at their gauge, and then look at how many rounds that they cast on, and just like trying to study how they got from point A to point B. That obviously is a little bit more challenging, but it'll help you to understand like what all goes into it, and how your stitch count and your gauge and then your sizing speaks to one another. And then lastly, I had to write all this down so that I didn't forget. So I also would recommend finding a skilled tech editor that is good with math and wouldn't mind grading your patterns for you, possibly. So this obviously is for a fee. A tech editor is a paid consultant, I guess you would call them. And they, I actually think that I'm heading down this road. I met an amazing tech editor that actually helped me with this pattern. And the more I thought about it, when as a designer, everyone wants to do their own math and their own like start to finish on their patterns. They want to be able to say, I designed this, I wrote the pattern, I graded the pattern, I marketed the pattern, I did all the things, it is 100% mine. But my husband, who's very successful, always says, what is your highest and best use of your time? And sometimes you need to pay someone to do what is not your highest and best use, like what is not your forte. And math is mine. So when this tech editor was helping me through this pattern, I realized her brain works so different than mine. She's speaking about, hey, this to that, to this to match to that, and, this yoke depth, and I'm just like, what? It took her minutes to plug stuff into a spreadsheet and figure out how to, some of the areas that I was missing in my pattern, which are things that would take me days, even with a spreadsheet, because I just don't get it. So sometimes it might be worth hiring someone else to do that. And then there is a cost to it, but then you free up your time. And so you can be doing, during the time that I would spend grading this pattern, I would be able to knit other things and do the things that really bring me joy and that I'm actually better at. So I could have more patterns published. I could do other, more marketing. I could speak to others and share knitting, like doing this podcast instead of doing the math. So I would say that would be my, my other tip. If you're struggling with math, is find someone who doesn't struggle with math and pay them to do it. So that is the end of my questions and the end of this episode. I want to thank you all so much for watching and for supporting Whimsy North. And I really hope that, this not only brings you joy, but also helps teach you a little bit on your knitting journey and inspires you. So if there's anything that I can do to teach you a little bit more, to inspire you more about knitting, to show you more behind the scenes, please send me a comment below or post a comment in my Google form. So check me out on Instagram. That's where I tend to hang out a little bit more because Instagram requires it in order to be seen. So thank you so much and happy knitting. Bye.